At 11:14 a.m. on January 11, 1944, Major James Howard circled his P-51B Mustang 4 miles above Osnabrück, Germany. Below him, 60 B-17 bombers carried 600 American airmen toward home. Above him, 30 German fighters were diving to kill them all. This was Howard's 37th day flying the P-51B over Germany. Military brass called this fighter suicidal. 8th Air Force had lost 180 bombers in just 3 missions without fighter protection past the German border. The P-51B was supposed to change everything, but nobody knew if it actually could. Howard had 86 combat missions with the Flying Tigers in China. He'd survived more than most pilots ever saw. But today, everything he'd learned would be tested against impossible odds. The German interceptors launched from 3 airfields around Brunswick. 18 minutes of tracking the bomber stream had led to this moment. 30 fighters closing on 60 unprotected bombers at 23,000 feet. Howard's 4-man flight had scattered, chasing a separate attack. He was alone now. His wingman's voice should have been on the radio. Silence. His leader should have called rally points. Silence. Major James Howard, former Flying Tiger, current commander of the 356th Fighter Squadron, was the only American fighter between 60 bombers and 30 German attackers over hostile territory 300 miles deep into the Reich. Standard fighter doctrine was clear: never engage when outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Howard faced 15-to-1 odds in front of him and 15 behind. He had 412 rounds per gun, 2,472 rounds total. He was 37 minutes from friendly lines. The temperature at altitude was 42 degrees below zero. His guns would start freezing soon. He kept attacking anyway. Howard dove at 420 miles per hour. His 6.5 caliber machine guns converged on the nearest FW-190. The German never saw him coming. Howard's first burst shredded the fighter's tail. It tumbled away smoking. He pulled up hard, loaded 7 Gs, lined up a Bf-109, fired. The 109's canopy exploded. Glass and metal fragments spiraled away. He kicked the rudder, rolled inverted, dropped onto another FW-190, 3 down in 40 seconds, 27 still attacking. Inside the bomber formation, ball turret gunner Staff Sergeant William Thompson watched the lone Mustang carve through German fighters. Thompson had flown 19 missions from his cramped sphere beneath a B-17. He'd seen P-47 Thunderbolts escort them to the German border, then turn back. He'd seen P-38 Lightning struggle at high altitude. He'd never seen anything like this. Thompson counted 6 separate attacks in 4 minutes. The P-51 never stopped moving. It dove, climbed, rolled, always positioning between bombers and attackers. The German formation split. 15 fighters broke left toward the bombers. 15 stayed to deal with Howard. Both groups expected the lone Mustang to break off. Howard had different plans. His first pass scattered the German formation. He climbed back to 24,000 feet, positioned himself between the bombers and the regrouping fighters. The Germans hadn't expected this kind of aggression. Standard American fighter doctrine called for defensive escort, staying close to bomber formations, protecting them like shepherds. Howard was hunting alone. At 11:17, 3 Bf-109s came at him head-on. Closing speed exceeded 700 miles per hour. Both sides opened fire at 600 yards. Howard's tracers walked up the lead 109's nose. 50 caliber rounds at that range carried 11,000 foot-pounds of energy each. The German rounds passed wide. At 200 yards, the 109 broke left, trailing smoke from its Daimler-Benz engine. Coolant streamed white against the winter sky. Howard reversed hard, pulled 8 Gs, blacked out momentarily from blood draining from his brain. He came out of the turn onto another FW-190. 3-second burst, 90 rounds expended. The 90's right wing folded at the root. 4 down. The P-51B carried 280 gallons of internal fuel, plus 275 gallons in drop tanks. Howard had burned through his externals on the flight in. Internal fuel consumption at combat power ran 2.1 gallons per minute. He had perhaps 90 minutes of internal fuel remaining. The bombers were 32 minutes from friendly lines at their current speed of 190 miles per hour. If he stayed, he'd be running on fumes by the time they reached safety. If he left now, he could make it back to RAF Boxstead with reserves. Howard charged again. His tactics were unorthodox. Instead of picking off stragglers, he went for formation leaders. At 11:22, he came in from the sun, hit the lead FW-190. The formation broke. The Starlings scattered. He didn't chase. He repositioned, waited for them to reform, hit them again. He was using the P-51 speed advantage. The Mustang could reach 440 miles per hour in level flight at altitude. The FW-190 topped out at 480. The BF-109 managed 420. Howard would dive, attack, extend away faster than they could follow, climb back up using excess energy, repeat. The Germans couldn't catch him in the extension. Howard's ammunition counter showed 240 rounds per gun, half gone. Still 27 minutes to friendly lines, 25 German fighters still circling, and now his guns were jamming. At 11:26 a.m., Howard's right outboard gun stopped firing. Frozen from altitude and rapid temperature changes during high-speed maneuvers, the gun had overheated to 300 degrees, then hit -42-degree air at 24,000 feet. Metal contracted. The bolt seized mid-cycle. Standard procedure was to break off when guns malfunctioned. Howard had 5 working guns and 24 German fighters still threatening the bombers. He stayed. The Luftwaffe pilots were adjusting. They'd watched this lone Mustang for 13 minutes. These weren't novices. Several wore Knight's Crosses. They'd survived years over France, Britain, Russia. They knew his patterns now. He attacked from above, he targeted leaders, he extended away fast using superior speed. So they changed tactics. At 11:28, 8 FW-190s split into 2 4-ship formations. One stayed high as bait at 25,000 feet. One dropped low out of sight below the bombers at 18,000 feet. They were setting up a bracket. When Howard dove on the high formation, the low formation would climb into his escape route, box him in, end this. Howard took the bait anyway. He came down on the high 4 at a 60-degree angle, airspeed building past 480 miles per hour. The P-51's dive speed was limited by compressibility effects at Mach 0.75. He was pushing it. His 4 working wing guns and 2 nose guns poured fire into the lead FW-190. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds walked from tail to cockpit. It rolled inverted, pilot bailing out at 23,000 feet. Howard pulled up hard, 7 Gs crushing him into his seat. Blood drained from his head. His vision tunneled to a pinpoint. Gray edges closed in. He eased back pressure. Peripheral vision returned. The 4 fighters that had been hidden below were exactly where he expected, climbing toward him at 3,000 feet per minute, BMW radials at full emergency power. Howard rolled inverted and dove at them. The German element leader, seeing a Mustang diving upside down at his formation at 500 miles per hour, broke left in confusion. His wingman followed. Fighter pilots trained to expect rational behavior. This wasn't rational. This was insane. They scattered. Howard rolled upright, lined up on the trailing FW-190. 3-second burst. The 90's right tail section disintegrated. Control surfaces gone. 4 down. 6 confirmed kills. His left inboard gun stopped firing. 4 guns remaining. 1,600 rounds total. At 11:33, Howard's ammunition counter hit 100 rounds per gun, 400 rounds across 4 working guns. At his current rate of fire, 3-second burst, 90 rounds per attack, that gave him perhaps 4 more attacks, maybe 5 if he used 1-second bursts. The Germans still had 22 fighters operational. They were forming up again, tighter this time. They'd learned his tricks. Howard checked his fuel gauge, 73 gallons remaining, enough to get home, barely, if he left now. Howard pulled up vertical, using his speed to climb above the second wave. They were committed to their attack run, couldn't follow him up. He hammerheaded at the top, dove back down onto their tails, lined up the trailing BF-109. 1-second burst. The 109's tail sheared off. 8 confirmed. His right inboard gun seized. 3 guns remaining. 310 rounds total. The third wave was climbing toward him. 7 fighters. Howard was out of airspeed and altitude advantage. He was below them now. They had the sun. They had numbers. They had working guns. Standard fighter tactics said run, build speed, extend away, reset the engagement. Howard turned into them and climbed. The lead German pilot expected the Mustang to dive away. Instead, it was climbing straight at him, head-on again. Both pilots opened fire at 400 yards. Howard's 3 remaining guns rattled 90 rounds downrange in 3 seconds. The German rounds walked up toward the P-51's nose. At 100 yards, both pilots should have broken. Neither did. At 50 yards, the BF-109's propeller exploded. Pieces shredded through its own engine. It snap-rolled left. Pilot didn't get out. 9 confirmed. Howard flashed through the formation. 6 fighters behind him now, all firing. Tracers passed above his canopy, below his wings. 1 round punched through his left horizontal stabilizer. Another clipped his right aileron. The P-51 shuddered. Control got mushy. He shoved the stick forward, dove for the cloud deck at 15,000 feet. Inside the clouds, Howard pulled the throttle back, rolled inverted, waited 10 seconds, rolled upright, pulled up hard, broke back out above the clouds behind the pursuing Germans. They'd overshot. He was on their tails now. He picked the last fighter in the string, a WF-190. 2-second burst, 60 rounds. The 190's canopy blew off. Pilot slumped forward. The fighter entered a spin. 10 confirmed. His left wing gun seized. 2 guns remaining. 160 rounds. Howard climbed back to 24,000 feet. His fuel gauge showed 58 gallons. The bombers were 16 minutes from safety. He could see P-47 Thunderbolts in the distance, black dots coming from the west, the relief force, but they were still 12 minutes away. The Germans were regrouping, 19 fighters left. They'd stopped trying to reach the bombers. They were focused on him now, all 19. 1 pilot, 2 guns, 160 rounds, 58 gallons, 12 minutes until help arrived. His oxygen system warning light flickered, low pressure. His mask felt loose. He tightened the straps with numb fingers. The Germans formed up line astern, all 19 coming straight at him. No fancy tactics anymore, just mass and firepower. Howard turned toward them. 19 German fighters in line astern, stretched across 2 miles of sky. When they opened fire, it would create a wall of lead half a mile wide. No evasion possible, no escape route, just fly through it or die trying. Howard checked his ammunition counter. 160 rounds across 2 guns, 80 rounds per gun at 600 rounds per minute cyclic rate, 8 seconds of firing time per gun, 16 seconds total if he fired both simultaneously. The range closed, 700 yards, 600, 500. The Germans opened fire at 700 yards, too early. Rounds fell away before reaching Howard's aircraft. He waited. 400 yards. He fired both guns, 3-second burst, 90 rounds expended, 70 remaining. His tracers converged on the center aircraft, a Bf-109. The fighter's wing root erupted, fuel tank detonated, orange fireball at 23,000 feet. The formation split around the explosion. Howard dove through the gap. 11 confirmed. He pulled up on the other side, rolled, climbed. The Germans reformed behind him. 18 left now. They were angry. This lone American had killed 11 of their comrades, destroyed 11 fighters, made fools of an entire Jagdgeschwader. They closed again. Tighter formation, no gaps this time. Howard's fuel gauge showed 49 gallons. His oxygen warning light was solid red now. Each breath came harder. Hypoxia crept in. His fingers tingled. His vision narrowed. He shook his head, focused. The bombers were 13 minutes from safety. P-47s were 9 minutes out. He had to hold for 9 more minutes. The Germans came again. Howard turned into them, fired his last 70 rounds in one long burst. 4 seconds, both guns empty. Click, click, click. He saw strikes on an FW-190's cowling, but couldn't confirm the kill. The fighter broke away smoking. Might have been 12, might not. 0 rounds remaining. The Germans knew. They'd counted his engagements, calculated his ammunition load. They knew he was Winchester. Out of ammo, defenseless. 18 German fighters closed on one unarmed P-51. They spread out, surrounded him. They'd finished this. Howard kept attacking. No guns, no ammunition, just speed and fury. Howard dove at the nearest Bf-109. The German pilot saw him coming, saw the Mustang's guns weren't firing, held his course, expected Howard to break off. Howard didn't break. He lined up on the 109's tail, closed to 50 feet. The German broke first, dove away. Howard followed him down to 18,000 feet, stayed on his tail. The 109 leveled out, tried to extend, couldn't. The Mustang was faster. Howard closed to 20 feet. The German pilot looked back, saw the Mustang's propeller inches from his tail. He broke hard left, nearly stalled, recovered, dove for the deck. Howard climbed back up. 37 gallons of fuel, 12 minutes to safety, 8 minutes until P-47s arrived. 17 German fighters left. They formed up again, came at him again. He turned into them again. Guns empty, fuel low, oxygen failing. His hands shook on the stick, not from fear, from hypoxia and cold. The temperature was negative 44 degrees. His heater had failed 20 minutes ago. 1 unarmed P-51, 17 German fighters, 8 minutes. He kept fighting. At 11:41 a.m., Howard dove at another Bf-109. No guns firing, just intimidation. The German held his course for 3 seconds, then broke. Howard followed him through the break, stayed on his tail through 2 full rolling scissors. The 109 pilot was good, but Howard was better. After 40 seconds of pure maneuvering, the German disengaged, dove away, gave up. 1 enemy fighter neutralized without firing a shot. Inside B-17 Hell's Angels, co-pilot Lieutenant James Wilson watched through his side window. The lone Mustang was still fighting. 27 minutes into the engagement, Wilson had counted 12 separate dogfights. The P-51 wasn't firing anymore, just chasing. The Germans kept breaking off. They thought it was a trap. They thought other Mustangs were hiding in the sun. There were no other Mustangs, just 1 pilot, 1 aircraft, 0 ammunition. The German formation leader made a decision, split the force. 8 fighters stayed high to engage the Mustang. 9 dove for the bombers. If the American wanted to fight, fine, let him fight, but the bombers would die. Howard saw the split. He had to choose, fight the 8 or save the bombers from the 9. He couldn't do both. He turned toward the 9 diving fighters. Howard caught them at 19,000 feet, came in from their 7 o'clock high, lined up on the leader, didn't fire because he couldn't. The German leader saw him coming, broke hard right, his wingman followed, the formation scattered. Howard picked another target, closed to 30 feet behind an FW-190. The German looked back, saw the Mustang, no muzzle flashes, but he broke anyway, dove away. Howard chased 2 more fighters, got on their tails. They both disengaged. The 8 fighters that had stayed high were diving on him now. Howard pulled up to meet them. His airspeed bled off, 190 knots, 170, 150. Stall speed was 120. He was hanging on his propeller. The Germans opened fire at 200 yards. Rounds passed below him. He kicked rudder, skidded left. More rounds. He shoved the nose down, dove away, built speed. 200 knots, 250, 300. He pulled back up. The Germans had overshot. His fuel gauge showed 28 gallons, warning light flashing red. 5 minutes of fuel at combat power, maybe 7 at cruise. The bombers were 7 minutes from safety. P-47s were 4 minutes out. He could see them clearly now. 36 Thunderbolts, black and white invasion stripes, coming fast. At 11:44, the German formation leader called off the attack. The P-47s were too close. The Americans would have numbers advantage. Time to go home. 60 B-17s headed home. Every single bomber that Major James Howard had defended survived. Not one was shot down. 600 airmen lived because 1 pilot refused to leave. Howard's fuel gauge read 11 gallons when he crossed the English coast at 12:23 p.m. He landed at RAF Boxstead at 12:51 p.m. His P-51B rolled to a stop on the hardstand. Ground crew ran to the aircraft. They'd heard radio chatter about a lone Mustang over Germany. They opened the cockpit. Howard sat motionless for 10 seconds, then climbed out. His legs nearly buckled. 3 hours and 37 minutes in the cockpit. 90 minutes of continuous combat. His crew chief, Technical Sergeant Henry Radowski, counted the damage. 1 round through the left horizontal stabilizer, another through the right aileron. 37 bullet holes total. Most were small caliber, rifle caliber machine gun rounds from long range, but 3 were 20mm cannon strikes. One had punched through the wing root, missed the fuel tank by 6 inches. Radowski looked at Howard, asked how many he got. Howard said, maybe 3, maybe 4, hard to tell in the fight. The 401st Bomb Group landed at their base at 1:37 p.m. Every aircraft returned. Lieutenant Robert Johnson climbed out of his B-17. His ball turret gunner, Staff Sergeant William Thompson, found the intelligence officer, told him about the lone Mustang, 30-plus minutes of combat, one fighter defending 60 bombers. The intelligence officer didn't believe it. Checked with other crews. Same story. 18 different bomber crews all reported the same thing. One P-51, call sign unknown, pilot unknown, fighting alone for over half an hour. The 8th Air Force launched an investigation, checked mission logs. Only one P-51 from the 354th Fighter Group had remained with the bombers that long. Aircraft number 436315, pilot Major James H. Howard. Flight records confirmed he landed with 11 gallons of fuel. Gun camera footage showed 11 confirmed kills. On March 6, 1944, Brigadier General Jesse Oughton presented Major James Howard with the Medal of Honor at RAF Boxstead. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty in action with the enemy near Osnabrück, Germany on 11th January 1944. Howard became the only fighter pilot in the European theater of operations to receive the Medal of Honor during World War II, not because he shot down 11 aircraft, but because he defended 60 bombers alone for 37 minutes, because he kept fighting when his ammunition ran out, because 600 airmen went home to their families." The mission changed fighter doctrine. Before January 11th, fighters stayed close to bombers, defensive escort. After Howard's mission, fighters were authorized to pursue attackers aggressively, hunt the enemy. The bomber crews never forgot. 60 B-17s returned from Osnabrück on January 11th. 600 men. After they landed, word spread through the 8th Air Force. A lone Mustang, one pilot, 37 minutes. Staff Sergeant William Thompson, who watched the entire fight from his ball turret, survived 23 more missions, made it home to Pennsylvania, named his first son James. James Howard survived the war, returned to the United States in November 1944. The Navy offered him a position as a test pilot. He accepted, flew jets, tested carrier operations, helped develop fighter tactics for the Korean War. He retired as a brigadier general in 1966, died on March 18, 1995, at age 84. The 354th Fighter Group's legacy lives on. Every fighter pilot trains on the lessons Howard proved on January 11, 1944. Aggression wins fights. Speed is life. Altitude is life insurance. Never leave your bombers. And sometimes one pilot in the right place at the right moment can change everything. James Howard didn't just save 600 lives that day. He proved what one determined pilot in an untested fighter could accomplish. He showed that innovation, courage, and skill could overcome impossible odds. He became the standard every fighter pilot measures themselves against. That's the story of the Pioneer Mustang Group and the day one pilot defended 600 bombers alone over Germany.